it's Dale here. Today I'm going to just talk a little bit about processes and so a thing I did for a project, and it's called Writing on the Wall. And this is because one morning when we got up, somebody had very generously painted in red on our front gate, which is still there. It's quite a few years ago, so it hasn't really gone away. They painted truffer. And I had no idea what truffer meant. I looked it up and it means a hoax or a swindle. So I don't know whether someone was having problems or someone had done someone in on our street and you hadn't been able to get the money for the drugs or whatever, but we were the lucky people who got the truffer. And as I said, it didn't bother me, but it inspired me to think about what I might do. And so I did a little bit of playing on a wall, writing on a wall, because that's where it was, and sort of thought about it. But I played with a product which is called decolorant mostly. I mean, that's what it's called. And I wanted to explore it more. And decolorant is a ready-to-use, I'll read it from here, a ready-to-use printing paste for removing areas of colour from dyed natural fabrics such as cotton, linen, silk and wool. But unlike bleach, it just takes the colour out without jeopardising the integrity. And if you mix it with some paint, like a red or another colour, it'll take out the colour from your fabric and add the colour in. So I used a printing block, a print stamps truffle, as you can see, and I stamped onto the fabric. This is some cotton, natural dyed cotton. Actually, it's from Lisa Walton, if I remember rightly. And then if you don't like it, and I thought, what a disaster, you just wash it and it will go back to being what it was. But instead of washing it, if you just heat it, wait till it dries and iron it, then this is permanent. And you can work back over. And one of the things about using the sponge stamps, of course, is that you get the wonderful shapes that come from working with sponge, which is why I like it. So that's my truffle, and I had mixed a little bit of red paint in here. And so you can see quite a bit of red here and there, and there's one that's been done with mixing the red in, so to get that. But that's possibly the first one I did, so it hasn't got any colour at all. So it simply is, it's like a bleach, but it's not a bleach. So it's a fabulous product, and it doesn't really smell a great deal. And then I worked it up with lots of samples, different samples, and played with a lot of different ideas. But at the end, I ended up with a truffle book. And I stitched on, and I did some plain truffles on letters on Kuhn felt, which I burnt out and then reapplied. And I used it in different ways. So you're just exploring the idea that you might have in your head. That's the background fabric, and it's some of this piece with red or not, or stitched or not. And on the inside, I've got other little bits and pieces. You can see that on this side, I've done a lot of twin needling down the middle, a bit of texture. And here I've painted, not with decolorant, but with red and silver paint, Lumiere paints. And over the top, I've stitched truffle everywhere once it dried. I've done it onto Kuhn felt, so you can see how I burnt out the holes here and there to give some texture. And that's just another little one that was mucking around some sort. So I tend to keep my samples. I'm pretty sure this is the cord that would wrap around it. So this is a piece of Indian sari silk that I've plaited. It makes great for making a wrap of any sort. And you can do whatever you want to do, of course. And so then I did a variety of things, like I played onto, this is kitchen paper, the Glad Bake. So I've used it as a little bit of a resist, and I've played with a few different things. So I've got tissue text, that's the Abaca paper, and I printed with red using a printing block that like tires, a little bit just sort of reminiscent of what I thought about this writing stuff, and then sprayed over the top with black paint, black. And this is another one of experimenting onto felt, which is Abaca tissue text on the top, and stitching on it just to see how it would work in the contrasts. And here is the Abaca, which has been painted black, and then has had a stamp with, I think I used it as a rubbing, so I put the stamp underneath and did a rubbing with a silver oil pastel. And then you can see here, that's one of the things I've burnt out. This is Kuhn felt, which when you work on it, stamp it, stitch on it or whatever, you can attack it with your heat gun, or a soldering iron is really good for cutting out the shapes. And then I have done other sorts of things. So this is stitching down on with a ribbon onto a background. I think it's got nappy lines, all sorts of stuff, just to give some texture. Another bit of part of my playing is I've woven some pre-felt and stitched with GIMP. And then this is another page that's in there that is just lots of different stitching and playing with the ideas. So this is what's developed from my truffer, and a little bit of hand stitching just to see on Kunin felt, so I might burn those out. And again, working with cotton onto a felt background and using the decolorant to get that shade going down. And I've written writing on the wall and words to that effect. Here's another one. And this one here I've stitched down onto it, and I've printed with truffer the words, and then I've used decolorant to get it out, and I've hand stitched back into it. And here's there's a couple more to go. Here's my using my soldering iron, my soldering letters to stamp onto the surface to see what sort of effect you might get, and just playing again with flakes and other things as something that you might use as part of your layering. Water soluble stitching, putting painting onto Romeo, the water soluble, and so the paint holds itself. And then you wash it out later. And here is the last one of this, and that's on a piece of very heavily felted with the embellisher bits and pieces. And I have done this sort of method. I've stitched onto the Romeo, and I've stitched long lines of words writing on the wall down here, and then laid it on the top and stitched it in, and then washed the whole lot out. So you've got netting and stuff there. So that's just a little bit of what I've done with that, just as an idea of how to develop it. So I hope that's given you one or two ideas. We'll see you again next time. Bye.